You introduced a bill recently that would give Congress control over, or authority over approving any executive action taken by the president, in this case President Trump, over whether or not to increase tariffs or to approve withdrawing from a trade agreement. Why did you think it was necessary to do this?
This is part of a decades-old problem that's been created by Republicans and Democrats alike, in which Congress has handed over its authority to the executive branch, sometimes to executive branch bureaucrats, and we see that with our $2 trillion in regulatory compliance costs each year, and sometimes in other more discrete areas like foreign relations or here trade.
Right, but your critics are saying that you're taking away power. You're trying to take away power from President Trump. Is that what you're trying to do?
What I'm looking at is the Constitution, which gives power to Congress to make laws, and specifically to make laws, among other things, about things like tariffs. So we have things like there are provisions in the Tariff Act of 1930. There are provisions in the Trade Act of 1974 that give immense discretion to the executive branch to decide just unilaterally to make certain decisions to raise tariffs. And that is a policy decision tantamount to making law. This is not the executive branch's fault. It's not the president's fault. This is Congress's fault, and Congress needs to reclaim its own
just
power.
Quickly, and then I want to get to the Supreme Court. Do you agree with President Trump's actions on trade policy?
Well, those policies are still unfolding. It's not entirely clear what actions he wants to take in this area. But my concern is a deeper one. It's a broader one. It's one that has been brewing since long before we knew who the president would be. This is a question about the people's elected representatives in Washington, in the House and in the Senate, being able to make law, which is what we're here to do.
Supreme Court, we're hearing that President Trump will announce next week who he will choose to appoint to the Supreme Court. You were on that short list that he put forth during the campaign. Are you interested in becoming a Supreme Court nominee? And have you had any discussions with the White House since Election Day about it?
Oh, of course I am. I'm a lifelong Supreme Court watcher. I've been watching Supreme Court arguments since I was 10 years old. Honored to be considered and on the list. But regardless of what choice President Trump makes on this, it's going to be a good one. The people on that list are good, and we're going to get that person confirmed. I look forward to pushing through that person once he or she's been nominated.
Have you had conversations since Election Day
of course
this
I have.
With the White House?
Along with many other issues.
Specifically about you being appointed to the Supreme Court?
We've talked about the issue broadly.
All right. I think Caroline, my colleague, has a question.
Yes, Senator Lee, thank you very much for joining us. Caroline Hyde in San Francisco. I'm going to take it back to technology, if I will, because you were just talking there about trade policies, and it seems as though at the moment Donald Trump is very much trying to fight cheap labor abroad with trade tariffs and the like, but is not actually the real threat to jobs automation, and is that a government responsibility to help retrain, or are companies?
No, I don't think that's a government responsibility. We have to look at technology in much the same way we look at other types of competition. What our job is, from the standpoint of government, is to make sure that government isn't putting undue burdens on companies. They face enough pressures from other areas. We can at least make sure that we are no longer the country with the highest corporate tax rate in the developed world. We can at least make sure that we're no longer putting $2 trillion in regulatory compliance costs on Americans every single year. And all those costs, keep in mind, get passed down to America's poor middle class, who pay for those costs through higher prices, diminished wages, unemployment, and underemployment. That's why there's a lot we can do to increase the competition of American manufacturers, of American employers, and to give more opportunities to American workers by focusing on those issues, by reducing those barriers that the government itself has put in place.